Welcome everyone to the Circle Debate Podcast. The host of Devious One, Ivan C, here alongside my brother from another mother, that is Mr. MGC Matthew Steamboat. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have an honorary guest, and I'm very, very happy to have him on the show. This individual has done it all. I can't go through this because it's a long-ass list. A very long-ass, I'll tell you that right now. But I tell you one thing. He is the dashing, handsome voice of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, Championship Wrestling from Memphis, NWA, United Wrestling Network, New Japan Strong. I could go on and on and on. This man has done it all. And ladies and gentlemen, I have Adnan Kureishy. How are you?
Hello there, Ivan. Hello there, Matt the Hat. It's good for me to be here on the Circle of Debate podcast. Looking forward to this, and we're going to have some fun. So let's get down to the brass tacks, as they like to say.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you for joining us. And also, don't forget, he is the ace of ring announcing and the ace of broadcasting. All right.
Immediately is one of my favorites of all time. You know, that's it's an honor to be called the ace of anything when Tanahashi is the real true ace of not even just New Japan, but some would consider like pro wrestling around the world because he's so damn good. And if you don't believe me, just watch Shingo and Tanahashi from this year, 2021, and the man still puts it 110% every time.
Oh my God, definitely.
Yes.
And I definitely agree with that. We'll get into that a little bit because I want to get your thoughts about that. But before we get into that, I want to go ahead and let our viewers and subscribers know a little bit more about you. So if you want to go ahead and take us through your journey of how this all began in professional wrestling for you.
Professional wrestling, it all began for me at the Santino Brothers Dojo, actually. About 2017, I remember participating. They were doing these one-day tryouts where like you would like basically pay for a day's worth of training, and you'd be blown up. They'd work you to death, like as far as like working you out for that day, and then like teaching you certain small basic stuff like a little bit of bumping as well as like running the ropes and stuff like that. Just like I remember being horrifyingly exhausted. I puked and almost passed out. It was one of the most intense things I've ever done in my life for sure. And but I remember doing that. They also had like they did a little character stuff at the end of it, and that's where I felt like I really excelled at the most because we all got to like cut promos and stuff like that. And it's funny because that was done by Gentleman Jervis was doing the character stuff at the time, and it's funny, the first person I ever cut a promo on was now Young Lion DKC, which is funny, because he was in that same class, that same one-day tryout, as well as Cameron Gates was also in that same one-day tryout. So anybody in the SoCal area knows when they were the Bomb Squad with Jake Atlas, and now people know DKC a little bit more around the world because now he's a new Young Lion for New Japan. So after that, I was definitely hooked on the idea of trying to get into wrestling more so, because that was more so if I felt like I couldn't do it, then at least I had the experience of knowing what it was like to hit the mat and stuff like that. But then, it just permeated in me a little further. And then later in that year, Santino Brothers hosted their first ever, what they now call the Advocates class, which was like a non-wrestlers course. It was like managers, referees, commentators, and stuff like that. So I'm like, all right. So I showed up when like I had manager characters stuff, like all in my head of what to do and stuff. So I had character. I developed a couple of characters I developed taking that class. I learned how to do super basic wrestling stuff. I learned how to referee. I honed my commentary ability because I loved doing commentary. Whenever I got the chance to do commentary in the first couple of years of and actually throughout my career, I've had the chance to do. Anytime I've had to do commentary, it's been fantastic. And then being a ring announcer was, I've told this story a couple times. Is the trippiest thing was less like how it occurred, because I was paying my dues early on, and I was helping out at a private show that we were doing for Santino Brothers. I was only like maybe in the class still for maybe just about like a month and a half. So this was November 3rd or 4th of 2017 was when I made my debut. It was at this private show for a biker club. And Joey Chaos was all like, who's, the Santino Brothers maestro. So I show up and I help, put chairs together and all that. So I'm, doing the stuff, and it was out. And I remember just like, cool. And then he goes up to me. He's all like, Adnan, you're ring announcing tonight. I went, huh? Excuse me? Oh, yeah, and you're commentating tonight, too. What? Excuse. So I'm like, first, ring announcing was not in my head until that night. And then, like, I didn't even have, like, proper, like, clothing for it. I brought like manager stuff in case stuff like that would have happened, but I didn't have like a full suit. So I ended up borrowing a suit jacket from my commentary partner, Marty, who would be my commentary partner for a good portion of my career. And then we ended up doing commentary together and ended up ring announcing. So if you look at like the pictures of me when I'm ring announcing the first time, I'm in like jeans and stuff like that. So, but it was such a fun experience. And it was like, it's a trip to think of who like was part of that time too, because like I ended up ring announcing guys like Jake Atlas and Brody King and Bateman all on that in my first show, and like look at where those guys are now, and it's just a trip to like think about like that was my very first show, and it was just like in front of a bunch of motorcycle guys and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun for sure, and that's where it started for me essentially.
Well, I gotta say, from when it comes to commentary, what style do you prefer? Do you prefer play-by-play or do you prefer color? And when did you realize you like preferred one over the other?
I don't know if I have a preference. It's more so I'd like to be able to fit in what's necessary, because I've done commentary by myself and I've done it with partners. And I definitely, I've like, because if you back when Inoki Dojo was running, I was the only commentator a lot of the times, and that's a really difficult, because you have to do both to some degree, and you don't have anyone to bounce off of. But I found my rhythm in doing that. But I think I definitely prefer having a partner. I think the majority of times I have been color, so I like giving like the little details and stuff. That's the whole point. Like my partner would draw the lines with the moves, and then I would provide like little details and telling the stories and whatnot. So it's a lot of fun doing both. I would say maybe I prefer color just a little bit more, just of like trying to describe the story and whatnot. But honestly, I just love doing commentary in general.
That's awesome. That's
amazing.
That's amazing. And then during the time where as you were commentating and also ring announcing, as you were developing, you're commentating and you're ring announcing, who did you actually like look at the tapes and like I don't like, for example, have you looked at listen to JR or let's say Kevin Kelly or to pretty much improve while as you were developing your broadcasting experience?
My favorite guys definitely were guys like a Kevin Kelly, or like there was not, JR is obviously one of the greatest of all time that everybody loves, but I loved guys like Kevin Kelly or like Mike Tenay, or like, because those are guys like Mike Tenay was called the Professor because he had so many like cool intricate details and knowing stuff. Yeah, exactly. And that's essentially like, you could look at Excalibur today as a very much similar in that aspect. But I personally have always been a huge fan of like a Mike Tenay or a Kevin Kelly, like, and it's been cool to like ask Kevin like it was the trippiest thing is I remember tweeting Kevin Kelly advice like really early in my career that he responded to, and I remember taking a screenshot of that, and then like last year is the first time me and Kevin Kelly are face to face in a meeting for the first time, telling him, hey, you gave me some advice over Twitter and whatnot, and then we take a picture, and it's just the coolest thing. But I just really like the guys who give a lot of detail. Like, describing moves is difficult for some people, so it's actually, I think personally, this is my opinion, I think Michael Cole gets a lot of shit for no reason because of stuff that he can't necessarily control. Right. Like I gave Michael Cole a lot, probably, I used to probably give Michael Cole my deal of shit too, but honestly, I remember like whichever WrestleMania a couple of years ago when it went like 24 hours, that wasn't 24 hours, but still, like, and he was like on commentary like the whole night, he's like losing his voice at the end. I'm like, props to that guy for doing it for that long in those moments, like, because there's like anytime where he feels like he's less produced, like if you look at like I think the old Japan, like when they did that one Japan show where Brock took on Kofi like way before like Kofi was ever champ and stuff, Michael Cole has a different sound to him. Like you can tell there's a certain way that you become produced. But but honestly though, I would definitely say those super informational guys like a Mike Tenay or a Kevin Kelly are the guys I really look up to when it came to commentary.
That's awesome. Over Mike.
Well, I think one thing I'm kind of curious about is, like, especially when calling moves, one tip I remember getting from Jim Cornette was saying usually when you can't name the move, it's like, oh, Tiger Driver 98 or, side headlock, Bulldog, running Bulldog, Tornado DDT. When you can't name a certain move, you usually just say like, oh, he spikes him down or he throws him down in the ring or he destroys his head. I guess it's better to sometimes err on the more dramatic, just be like based on the situations, like, my God, he's slamming his head into the ground or just spikes him. Like that's always, is that always kind of like a good like go-to when you don't know the name of the move?
For sure. It's, you want to paint a picture. You got to think of it like this. I remember, like, because I'm not a big sports guy, but I remember like being a kid, like, you know, being in the car with my dad, and my dad would listen to baseball all the time. And, you know, and it's basically, you know, you're not watching the game, but you know what's happening because of the description of the commentary. And I think that's should be the same really in wrestling, like almost think of it like an old radio broadcast. You don't necessarily need to know the names of all the moves in like the super technical terms. Like, yeah, it's cool if you do it, and props to you if you know all of it, and it's a good skill to have. But as long as you can adequately describe what is being what is happening, I think that's what's the most important thing. It's not necessarily that like you know the name of that being like a brain buster necessarily, like or the variation of which kind of brain buster, which, because there's so many different suplexes. There's a ridiculous amount of suplexes.
Fisherman, perfect.
Yeah.
The
But you know, you can
Fisherman
do
buster.
something like, yeah, he's got him in like a pinning predicament here with the leg hook, like even you would, you know, and you just got to describe these situations in a way that like say the layman can understand. Because I remember a couple friends of mine would come to like shows, and like one of them who wasn't necessarily a big wrestling fan was like would tell me it's all like, you know, you would describe things to where I would understand it, where I wasn't watching, like I wasn't here for the story of like however long these guys have been fighting or necessarily know what they're doing, but I understood everything because of how you presented everything. So you want to make it digestible, not just I think for the wrestling fan, but for the people who are watching it for the first time or the casual viewer, I think.
Also wanted to ask, so how did the relationship came about, you working in championship wrestling from Hollywood? How did all that begin with Mr. Marquez?
That started off with just like, you know, one of the things that we were taught is that, you know, you want to show up to those places that you want to work at, and then see how you can help out and whatnot, and like, you know, make yourself available to be, you know, a hard worker. So I was showing up with, you know, with essentially who was my road wife, Halston Body, because we would travel a lot together, and have traveled a lot together over the course of the last like 3+ years. And so he was driving up there, and I drove up with him the first time, and then like a few times, and we were, you know, helping put the ring together, help doing whatever setup, just making ourselves available and known that we wanted to help in some manner. And this is what I like to tell like students who ask me, or even anybody who asks me, is that, you know, when it comes to trying to get into spots in wrestling, is that you want to be available to do whatever and take on whatever job that they will give you if it's a place you want to be. Because if it's a job you don't want to do, that's fine. Show them that you can do it, because that can lead to a job that you'll want to do, basically, as long as, you know, you make it known that like, hey, like, you know, just so you know, like I'm more than happy to help with this, but you know, if you ever have an opening here, I'd like to do this too at some point. Or so that's what happened. One of the days I was putting the ring together, and Nick Bonanno, who is you know, senior referee at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, as well as he actually has a lot of you know, backstage roles that as well, very important figure at Championship Wrestling for All. He would ask me, hey Adnan, it's like, yeah. And I worked with Nick once, maybe twice before, for sure, on a Santino Brothers show. So I didn't know him that particularly well, but he did ask me like, hey, what were you trying to do in wrestling? And I said, oh, well, I'm a commentator, I'm a ring announcer, I'm a manager, I can referee, you know, I have all these, you know, things that I can do, you know, stuff like that. And he said, oh, okay. Yeah, we're actually looking for a ring announcer right now. So if you bring your suit, maybe we can, you know, set you up with a dark or something. I'm like, oh, I have my suit with me now, because another one of the most important lessons you learn is always have your gear, because you never know when you're going to be booked. So I remember doing 2 dark matches in March of 2018. So about 3 years to this month, actually. On that day, I remember one of them had Sandra Moon, and I can't remember who she wrestled, and the other one was Hyper Street Gregory Sharp versus D-Man Dan Parker. Those are the first 2 matches I did, and those weren't televised. But I remember doing that, and then like showing up again, and then they didn't have a spot for me that day, but then I ended up still just being out there and just grabbing gear and stuff. And then after that, they gave me an actual full set of tapings to do. So that was I want to say just 2 episodes. It was the first time I was used were the set of episodes where I remember the main event of the second episode was Willie Mack versus Bad Dude Tito for the Hollywood Heritage title, where Mack became the Hollywood Heritage champion. That was my first set of tapings like ever done on television and whatnot. And it's funny because you can tell they don't know that they're going to keep me yet, because they don't like give me a graphic yet for my name or anything. I don't think they mentioned me yet. It's just like, you know, it's that I wasn't they hadn't offered me the position yet. But basically after that set, like I forgot if it was like a week or two that passed, but I got an email saying, hey, we'd like to keep you as the full-time ring announcer. I was like, are you available to do that? I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I am. Like, so that's basically how that happened. And so, you know, then I started building my rapport with guys like a Dave Marquez and like so many other important figures through there. Like, you know, I would say the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood was very instrumental in helping me get to the places that I got to, for sure, and helping like really kind of mold me into the ring announcer that I am today.
Well, my question's for about like your work with New Japan Strong. Is there a bit of a language barrier like working with them, or is there like enough of a bilingual presence where it's easier to work around, like work with or work, you know, on it? And also,
oh, go on. Sorry.
No. Yeah.
As far as like with New Japan Strong, technically, New Japan Strong is a subsidiary of the subsidiary company we started here, New Japan Pro Wrestling of America, which has its own Twitter account, NJPW of America on Twitter. And basically, so there's not as much of a language barrier because who I deal with, you know, speaks English. Like the person I deal with, she speaks both in English and in Japanese. So she, you know, and as well as like when I talk to like, you know, certain higher ups, like he primarily speaks Japanese, but he understands English and you can speak a little English and stuff like that. So that hasn't been too much of a problem. I have had the honor of meeting the current president, Obari-san. This was before the pandemic. This was when I was helping out before I was the ring announcer. Back when I was helping out, like do merch for some of their shows and stuff like that back at Lions Break Project back in the Anaheim Convention Center. And Obari-san is perfectly bilingual. He speaks fluent English, fluent Japanese. So it's so far there's no language barrier in that aspect. So everybody I've mostly had to deal with speaks perfect English, and then even like with other people, like they totally understand English. So it hasn't been an issue so far.
I'm guessing the honorifics are definitely still part of it, because I've known, like, of course, Kevin Kelly opens with the Yoroshiku onegaishimasu, and do you guys kind of end the day with the Otsukare-sama deshita? Like, do you guys all end with that? Or
for sure, if you know it, you do that. Like, you know, it's everybody, you know, it's everybody greets, you know, it's like you greet me, it's like, oh yeah, ohayou gozaimasu, you know, so yeah, so definitely like traditional greetings when you know it. And it's not a bad idea to learn as much of that as you can, you know.
And for the non-Japanese speakers out there, especially you, Ivan, Otsukare-sama deshita, like there's no, I guess the direct translation's like you are tired, but it's like good work today in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Like it's you know, if you know the proper greetings and you do that, but at the same time, so far they haven't killed me for not knowing everything, so that's good.
And have you even gone to Japan to actually do ring announcing in Japan?
No, not yet. I didn't start working for them as a ring announcer until the pandemic hit. So basically I was doing what I could to earn my way there, just like everybody else, because I did do merchandise for them and stuff like that on like previous shows that they were doing in the LA area and such. And then I got the call you know, during the summer of last year when everybody wasn't like I hadn't done anything since, like, it was like March happened, and the last two things I did that weekend last March were I did commentary at Ground Zero for the first time, where I debuted as a commentator. Like, I'd been doing ring announcing over there, but then me and Mondo Vega got to work together as a commentary team at Regulators Mount Up. And then the next day we did our last Championship Wrestling from Hollywood tapings with fans before everything got shut down and whatnot. So there was a solid like 3 months where I wasn't doing anything, and like even my regular job I was furloughed from for a while. So it was like, so I was just, you know, sitting around, and I just remember like waking up and just getting like a text message from a number that I don't know. It's like, hey, this is such and such from New Japan. Are you available to ring announce on this day? I went, good, yes, and I became the most awake person in the world. And I am not a morning person, and I became the most awake person in my entire life.
Mental caffeine.
Correct, yeah. But no, it's very difficult to get over to Japan, like as far as like, you know, at the moment, like, you know, so no, it has not happened yet where I've been sent over to Japan. I'm hoping to make that a reality. That's like one of the #1 goals in my career, is to eventually get over to Japan and do my thing in Japan for New Japan Pro Wrestling specifically. It would be quite the highest honor if I can make that happen. But it's already been quite the honor to be part of them for Lions Break Collision and then which led into New Japan Strong.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And I pray for you. I wish nothing but the best, and I'm hopefully you do, brother, because you deserve it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Honestly, you are an inspiration, and I commend you a lot of all your attributes you have done. And me watching your career as well as a fan, I commend you because you inspire me as well. Because like that's something that Matt and myself would love to do as well. And as we're getting more deeper into it, and best believe, I mean, even to other podcasters as well who would like to go ahead and do commentating and or broadcasting. I mean, what will be the best advice that you will give to us? If we want to go ahead and pursue that career.
If there are the Santino Brothers, to my knowledge, was the only school that offered a non-wrestlers course, which I think is the best way. And in general, I don't think it's a bad idea to try and get in with the school and see what you can learn and ask about certain things. Generally speaking, if you're at least associated with the school and whatnot, it's you show up and you help out. I don't know. That's not as easy to do right now in the pandemic era. Like before, obviously you can do that a little bit more now. There should be protocols in place with every place that's happening, but you should probably send out feelers of just hey, I'm trying to do such and such. I understand if it's nothing for me, but I'd like to just go and help out. Just literally just showing up and helping with anything, ring, chairs, anything, stuff like that. Make it known that you want to be helpful in any manner, and that can, like I said, lead you to the opportunities that you actually want. Because if you're showing up all the time and and whatnot, and then you haven't gotten the opportunity, eventually people are going to take notice. They're going to notice when you're there, and they're also going to notice when you're not there. That's also a thing too. I think Halston Body is a prime example of that in actuality, because I got my opportunity before he did to get on the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. But that time when I show up and the time Halston shows up, it's a few months for sure, at least, before they give him a chance. But he showed up every single time before they finally went, let's do something with this. Hey, this guy's showing up all the time and he's working really hard. And, he let's see what he wants to do and let's see what we can. And that's perseverance right there, I think. And it just, that just show that you're valuable. Make it known that you are a valuable commodity to the company that you want to be a valuable commodity to,
Right. Absolutely agreed 100%.
Here's a big one. Why is Tanahashi's entrance at Wrestle Kingdom 8 with Marty Friedman the best Wrestle Kingdom entrance ever?
Even more so than Ayumi Nakamura singing Kaze ni Nare for Suzuki at 5 or 6. That was a pretty
with the rain falling down.
That's good too. Yeah, no, it's because Tanahashi is the hero of New Japan Pro Wrestling. He is the ace for a specific reason. That man is a living, breathing superhero anime
Aishitamas.
Yeah, Aishimasu. Yeah, the flowing hair. That man is beautiful. That's also a thing, is that there's no better looking man in probably all the world than Hiroshi Tanahashi. But that's what makes him Tanahashi, man. Is that all those cool things. Wrestle Kingdom 8. That's the one. No, wait. That's the one?
It's Nakamura.
Nakamura for the IC title, right?
Yeah.
And then where Nakamura also had all the strippers up on the poles.
And he's got the girl on his back.
Yeah, the IC title match. Yeah. Oh yeah, now I remember. Yeah, it's pretty good. That's all. There's also the Wrestle Kingdom 2. There's so many cool ones, because I also think about Kushida and Alex Shelley coming out in the DeLorean for one of the Time Splitter tag matches. So but Tanahashi's is good. I think personally, though, it's just because I love Kaze ni Nare so much. I really love when Ayumi Nakamura actually did it for Suzuki live at the Dome, which was super dope.
Oh yeah, that's dope.
Well, with the recent, Tanahashi holding that never open weight championship, just an opinional. Do you think that belt should get a redesign with somebody as great as Tanahashi holding it?
It could and it couldn't. It's a weird thing, redesigns. I think it could, just because we've had that design for roughly almost 8 years now with the Never belt.
Yeah.
But it's what it represents, because I'm one of the people who definitely thinks that that's the ass kicker's belt for sure. That's and Tanahashi is still an ass kicker. I still remember how cool it was when Yuji Nagata beat Shibata for that brief run too. That was super cool. So a redesign on it would be all right, but I don't necessarily think it needs it. They have a little theme going with all the Never belts, because even the 6-man belts look pretty much the same, just with a different color scheme with the green instead of the red. I've always wanted to see Tanahashi win. Just a personal bias. I've always wanted to see him win the IWGP United States title, because I just think with his outfit and the color scheme and that belt would look so good on Hiroshi Tanahashi.
It's a big belt too.
It's a huge one. And the thing is, with that robe too, his robe was cut with the idea it was made for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, but the U.S. Heavyweight title is close to the similar size, and I feel like from a color scheme, because he's got the red, whites, and the blues on pretty much most of his attires these days, it would look perfect on him. But the Never Belt, hey, bottom line is right now Tanahashi's on top of the ass kickers division, and I think he's going to elevate that title. I mean, that's always the beautiful thing about when I watch New Japan Pro Wrestling is I feel like every championship is important. So like, you know, whenever somebody's holding a belt, it's not because it's because they earned it. It's because it means something, you know. It's like, I love that Naito, you know, just at you know, Castle Attack challenge just for the Intercontinental Championship. You went like, all right, I didn't, you beat me, that's fine, but let me have this one, you know, see if I can get that from you, you know, because they all meant something. I mean, it's kind of like the idea that back in the day, like the ECW TV title and the World Heavyweight titles were almost like on the same levels. Like yeah, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, which will now soon probably be the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, is important, but the US Heavyweight title meant something. You know, the Never Openweight title means something. You know, every tournament means something. That's what I love about, you know, New Japan Pro Wrestling, is that everything has weight, everything matters.
And I love the listing of the previous champions on the belt. It's like listing previous emperors, previous kings. You know, when you look into history, I'm like, whoa, I'm there on the belt now.
So, yeah, exactly. You're immortalized there, no matter what. That's you, and that's so dope. So yeah, those the tradition that goes with it. I'm gonna miss like when they would do the heavyweight title matches, and you would see they would do the grandeur music, and you'd see all the previous IWGP heavyweight champions, and that was always so cool.
Yes.
Actually, I got to be there for one of those because I remember attending the first G1 special in USA in Long Beach in 2017 when Okada faced Cody, and that was also historic when you also think Cody was the Ring of Honor champion at the time. So it was the IWGP championship being defended against the Ring of Honor champion, which was pretty dope. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. But how do you feel about just the IC itself unifying with the World Heavyweight? I mean, do you feel, and your opinion about it? I mean, you know, you did mention about like, okay, should be tradition, right? But now that they're moving forward with that, unifying them, I don't know how do you feel about that?
It's above my pay grade. It's not my decision. Me personally, I liked having the lineage of both the Intercontinental and the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Yeah. But, you know, at this point, like when you think about how throughout the last year, they were essentially one title because both belts were always being defended.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It was kind of like how when Daniel Bryan or when Randy Orton and John Cena had the match for both the heavyweight and the WWE titles, and then for this period of time you were just walking around with two belts, and then eventually there's one belt. I kind of equate it to that, so it makes sense in this aspect. So like, you know, even though I personally would still love to have the Intercontinental Championship around and the heavyweight title as a separate thing, I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, because we always have to go forward in wrestling in general. Things will change, and so I'm looking forward to seeing how we build the new reputation for the new IWGP World Heavyweight Championship belt is going to be, as well as I'm super curious to see how it looks when it after either Desperado or Kota Ibushi ends up with like the belts, you know, which is a trip in itself that Desperado and Kota Ibushi is going to be at the anniversary show.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward
for sure.
Definitely, I feel that it's Desperado's time. I think it's about time for him to get his shot. It's been a very long time. And I feel certain people, you know, don't really see him as a high profile, but he's very underrated.
I think a lot of people like Desperado turned a lot of heads in the last year for sure. Like like when he was given the opportunity in the New Japan Cup last year to have the match with Ishii to start, and that was one of my favorite matches in that cup last year was Desperado and Ishii. So great, so fantastic. So I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't and there's anybody who paid attention before realized that Desperado, like whenever he was given a chance, he was somebody to watch. And then like he was kind of like the junior division's like best kept secret for the longest time. And then especially after that incredible main event he had with Hiromu in the Best of Super Juniors last year, I think everybody really paid attention to El Desperado after that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You guys were talking about the uniting and the evolution of championships. It's kind of like related to this next question because, like, I think of the All Japan Triple Crown Championship being, you know, a union of 3 different belts being there. So, you know, I know, and Pro Wrestling Noah, I've noticed they also do the whole previous champions like video montage at the beginning with their promotion. I was going to ask you what other pro wrestling Japanese promotions are you in, or do you follow or interested in, or what's your probably favorite of them besides New Japan?
I mean, besides New Japan, you know, it was DDT because of how weird and hilarious it is. Just because I do love like
Love
strange things in
DDT.
pro wrestling. Yeah, I love strange things in pro wrestling, and that Iron Man Heavy Metalweight Championship, like brought so like looking at just the title history and just being in awe of just like all
Napkin
the
holder, dog,
yeah,
kid in audience.
Yakatori,
Vince
a
McMahon
bus.
star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah, it's such a cool creative thing, and I love like stuff like that. Or like I remember like Stardom. I remember going to this 2 Stardom shows that happened in Southern California in like 2015 or something when Stardom came out here. I know you get exposed to like, you know, Kairi Hojo, people know better as Kairi Sane better, and like Io Shirai at the time, and Mayu Iwatani, who Mayu became was good then, and then became one of like the best in the world after that because I saw her like super young.
I've heard a podcaster refer to Mayu as Stardom's Tanahashi.
She, you know, it's because she was the one who stayed. You know, she became that figurehead after WWE swooped up Kairi Sane and then they swooped up Io. You know, Io would have probably been that girl, and then Mayu became that girl because of that. But I think Stardom is also, I think, is one of those promotions that like when we talk about women's revolutions, I think you look at like not even just the Joshis, obviously, who are fantastic at Stardom, but even like the women from outside of Japan who made a bigger name for themselves going to Stardom. Like a Thunder Rosa is someone who comes to mind in my own head. Like Thunder Rosa, now she's on top of the world. She's a sweet human being and she's an excellent wrestler. And I love the fact that she's like, you know, basically close to being on top of the world now because like she's so great. And I think, you know, you look at the work she did, not just here in the NWA and AEW or like in Lucha Underground, but you look at what she did in Japan and she was tearing
Tokyo
it
Joshi.
up. Yeah, exactly. So I think, you know, Stardom is one of those places too that I liked watching. So it was like DDT and Stardom would be like my others that I like to check out like occasionally outside of New Japan.
Awesome. I did notice that you did mention on your last IG that this was, which was you did announce for the, you know, Kenta and Moxley match. So you could say that was by far, as of right now, like one of the biggest highlights of your career of announcing.
Yeah, it's I have so many now, and it's weird to think because I've only been in the business about 3.5 years now, like close to, and it's ridiculous to think that like I got to announce the winner of Kenta and John Moxley, that I got to say, you know, it's like, you know, still IWGP US Heavyweight Champion Death Rider John Moxley, or just in general, one of the hugest like honors was like being the ring announcer for the Super J Cup last year, which was, you know, huge honor, being like, you know, it's like, you know, that's such a huge tournament when you think of the history, and like the J Cup in '94 being one of the best wrestling nights of wrestling of all time, and like, you know, being you know, the thing that Jushin Thunder Liger invented, or like I remember like when we go back to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, like I was only there for maybe 3 months, and then I was given an opportunity to ring announce the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship for the first time, which you know, it was Josephus, rest in peace, Crimson, and Nick Aldis, and I'm like, I wasn't even in wrestling a year even, and not even let on TV, and I'm like, this is the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. How am I here already? And like, there's that, or like just like anytime I've done the NWA title, you know, or like those big tournament moments in New Japan, or like I also think about like when I did Impact Wrestling for 3 days in 2019 in August, and I was such a huge TNA guy growing up, and I remember loving the X Division Championship. That was like my favorite title for the longest time, and you look at the lineage of all the incredible athletes and wrestlers who have held the X Division Championship, and I was ring announcing the X Division Championship at the time when Jake Chris was champion, defending it against guys like Rich Swann and Ace Austin during like those shows, and just like, oh man, it was so definitely like, even that one was like a personal, like I watched so many X Division Championship matches, and now I'm like ring announcing X Division Championship wrestling matches. Those are so dope. Those are also like huge moments too.
To me, that's TNA Impact's treasure. To me, that's like one of the most, you know, That's TNA Impact's wedding ring, or the what do you call it, the jewelry box, like your mom's most prized. Like if TNA Impact was your mom, that would be like her most prized pearls that she wears.
It was, yeah, the X Division Championship was like so cool because I'm holding it at ringside basically beforehand to hand it off to the referee and stuff like that. I'm all like, dude, this is the X Division Championship. It's like, what that represents and how many amazing matches I used to watch growing up that made me go like, man, wrestling is so cool, and like stuff like that. Like, yeah, that's for sure. I think when everyone talks about like TNA or Impact, like, yeah, they've had a lot of great world champions, a lot of tag team championships, a lot of great women's championship stuff they've done. But like the title that really sticks out to me when I think of Impact is the X Division Championship for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I look very, very, very true. I want to ask you this question. I'm curious.
Okay.
Now, it's two questions. One of them there's a follow up. So, your thoughts about with this crossover promotions, and the follow up on that. I feel, and I don't know if you want to. I don't know if it's your opinion. I felt that who opened those doors. You know how they always say, "Oh yeah, the forbidden doors." That's how they keep saying.
Right.
I feel Marquez did that. It's even though that people do not know, but he definitely did open those doors when he began United Wrestling Network, having people from AEW, New Japan, NWA, some different promotions. Impact, he had them there. So I mean, do you agree that Marquez was kind of the foundation of that, of those forbidden doors, as they say?
I mean, it was before there was a forbidden door. Like Dave Marquez in general, like he started the United Wrestling Network, and the point of that was to, bring wrestling promotions and just put them together to make something stronger. I'm also a big proponent of that. I love the idea of partnerships. Without partnerships, I would have never been introduced to New Japan in the first place. You know what I mean? Right. I think it's a good thing for talent. I think it's a good thing for the fans. I think in general, like when companies work together, you get more cool and creative things that happen. You get interesting matchups. You get dream matchups. You get these cool things that can benefit both 2, 3, however many promotions that decide to work together, as long as they can get it to work. It's the idea that like learning your styles and stuff like that. Or like, I was thinking about like it's similar to like New Japan's had these partnerships for a long time where they were partnered with Ring of Honor and CMLL and Rev Pro, and then that's how they would use it as their Young Lion system. You looked at like Jay White, you looked at Great Khan, you looked at like these guys who, like Jay White was in Ring of Honor for a long time before he came back to New Japan. Great Khan was in Rev Pro before he came back. Master Wado, Hiromu Takahashi, Sho and Yo, all were sent to Mexico. Yeah. That's why, those guys did so well in CMLL. And then even guys like Sho, Yo, and Hiromu went to Ring of Honor to hone themselves even more. But like you see those influence and how those guys learn, for example. I think it's cool for learning experiences to really make guys like younger guys a lot better. I think it's good for making those big money marquee matches. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Like you looked at Moxley and Kenta, like, the idea was that we needed, you need it. Moxley is an AEW guy, and now all of a sudden he's finally showing up on New Japan Strong to defend the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship. People from AEW are going to like take a look over at New Japan Strong and see what's going on over here. Kenta shows up on Dynamite. People are like, yo, people watching New Japan who haven't checked out Dynamite are checking out what's going on over there. Finn Juice is on Impact. They've been on Impact the last few weeks. People are checking that out, all that. Like, I think that was also that's also like when we were talking about the J Cup. The J Cup had, it was New Japan, Ring of Honor, GCW, Impact Wrestling were all represented in the last, Super J Cup. And I think those potential moments in creation of matches, I think, are the coolest things. Like, of just like there's a potential, like I don't know if everything will happen, but there's definitely potential of certain cool things that could happen with partnerships in general. And like, and when you look like with the partnerships, like even like WWE has had partnerships in the past. You look at like, old like AAA or CMLL guys like showing up in old Rumbles or stuff like that, or when they got Liger to WWE for one match, that was cool too. I think it's beneficial because it helps us all as an industry. I think there should be competition, because competition is what keeps, things fresh and interesting and keeps people pushing the envelope for something better. But I definitely think when there's times to come together and grow, I definitely think we're in a really interesting time in pro wrestling, especially when you consider what the world has gone through over the last year, and I think it's almost become more important than ever that we see stuff like this happening with NWA, Ring of Honor, Impact, New Japan, AEW, even WWE. Honestly, just like I think it's really important, and I think the wrestling business will thrive because of it. But I think when you were saying about Dave Marquez has always had that idea too, that like, it's always better that you mention these promotions together, you put them together, we had Cody show up in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood when he was NWA champion, stuff like that, like that puts more eyes on us and such like that. So he was looking at what we were doing with Primetime Live, where like that's also the thing too. Like that was what they call like the forbidden door, because we had AEW guys and New Japan guys on our show like at the same time, as well as NWA guys and just cool, and MLW guys too, Major League Wrestling. Let's not forget about them. There's so many cool things that can happen, and it's such a weird, still kind of uncertain time in wrestling. But as long as cool things that will beneficiate not just the companies but the fans, I think it's just really a win-win for the fans, and that's what it's all for, really. It's just the fans are the ones who watch it, so they're the ones who are going to benefit the most from it.
Definitely agree 100%.
You're talking about interesting times and, new eras in wrestling and interesting eras in wrestling. I don't know if anybody's ever kind of looked at it from this angle, though, but I'm kind of going to use this as an example. Like Rocky Romero, he's both a wrestler and a rapper. He makes his own music. He's a great performer. Maki Ito, she's starting to become like the darling of like Twitter, like becoming the new it girl. And I'm perceived, motherfuckers. and of course she had her feud with Thunder Rosa in Japan. We talked about Thunder Rosa earlier, but I really foresee Maki Ito kind of having the same cultural phenomenon that China was in her heyday, when China was appearing on TRL, at the MTV VMAs and all these different places. And, there's no Joshi promo specialist yet until like I found out about her. And, this was also going to be a question for you too, involved with this, because I think Maki Ito could, break over into music and movies, through AEW, through the power of AEW, because of the billions of dollars and the connections and the American TV exposure. But my question was, who's your favorite Japanese musical artist, and what musical artist from Japan would you like to see appearing on AEW through that forbidden door? Because it's K-pop, and like Japan has its red tape with its entertainment industry, but K-pop gets like a free, direct into the US through, they don't have the same red tape. But now, like through New Japan and through, Japanese promotions, you could go in through AEW through like, oh yeah, you're doing the theme song for a Japanese wrestler or something like that, kind of like a through door. I don't know if anybody else has kind of come at it from this angle.
Well, I mean, we were talking a little bit before off the air about a little bit like J-Rock and J-Metal stuff. And
Glay, that picture with Tanahashi, Glay is one of the biggest bands in Japan. And for those who don't know them, they have a sound akin to to me, it's like the Beatles meets Iron Maiden is what Glay's sound is to me, so.
One I didn't mention earlier that like I always listened to a lot growing up because I was a big fan of FLCL, Fully Cooley, was the Pillows.
The Pillows.
The Pillows have such a like chill and dope sound. I feel like, I don't know if they necessarily fit into wrestling aspect.
I think cool. So. Like for punk rock wrestlers, there's a lot of punk rock wrestlers out there. So I think they would fit with that kind of gimmick. And then it's like maybe Darby Allin walks out to stage and the Pillows like rock a song for him,
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. That would be pretty cool. You could get like the Pillow. Like, well, I don't know if like for Darby Allin, I don't know why I'm like thinking about like Gacked or something. That would also
maybe
be
Gacked,
cool.
maybe Balzac. I haven't heard them in a while. They've got a that kind of name, maybe a band like Balzac or something like a goth rockabilly. All the many,
Darby Allin would be the guy I feel like you'd bring J-Metal stuff into, unless you just have like one of those super anime nerd guys that like, because everybody you have to figure out who the biggest anime nerd is. Like even Big Swole would be like, I'm sure she'd be like super dope, and like, because I remember her coming out with like the Power Ranger gear and stuff like that. She'd probably be into something like that. Like
I heard her sing a little bit too. Like when she sang a little bit of Judas, she's got some pipes on her. She could sing very well. And I'll even make this opinion. In my opinion, AEW is the most musically talented roster. They got so many, like MJF's like an opera singer. Jericho's in a band. They got, what was it, Butcher and the Blade. They got a guitarist there.
Oh yeah, he's the guy from As I Lay Dying or something. Or
no, it was
the band was. It was
Every Time I Die. It was Every Time.
Every Time I Die.
Yeah,
you might be right. It's the Butcher for sure. I just forgot the name of the band.
And Frankie Kazarian plays bass for a band, and then Hikaru Shida plays all of her. She plays piano and sings and is in musicals. Like you can't beat them musically. Like you could debate about their how good the wrestling product is, but you can't beat them musically. I don't think I
listened to a lot of, like, because we were talking about Rocky Romero, and I really like Six Trees Vice 2, or like the Sneaky Style album he did, and he just put out like a new single called Rolly that like is super dope to like listen to. It's pretty dope. Like this, even my dude Chris Bay in Impact, he's just putting out some music too recently. So like just a AEW's got a lot of musically talented people, but there's a lot of musical talented people just all over the place.
Through that forbidden door, they could perform those songs on Dynamite. That's why I want to.
It's the forbidden studio door now. Okay, now it's just like we're gonna push guys into the studio and be like, now, like, because we always had, like, in wrestling in our past, like we had WWE originals, or like those, like that song The Undertaker's like singing, which is like really weird and stuff like that. Now we got AEW's got to do something like that, or just in general, we got to have like musicians from all over wrestling put out an album.
Yeah, and awesome. I think that would be that would sell. That would be like #1 on Spotify for weeks on end. I mean, Chris Jericho's anniversary night was the night after Eddie Van Halen passed away, and Chris Jericho used to use Unchained by Van Halen as his entrance theme. So I thought like that episode was going to open with Chris Jericho singing some Van Halen or something like that. It was like so many, and I think one of the things I kind of think I wish New Japan didn't miss out on was with the Jericho Tanahashi match. Like there was a little bit like of a rock band video, but I was kind of hoping it was going to be a battle of the bands, maybe like X Japan and Tanahashi, and then Jericho and Fozzy, and then they could have a battle of the bands before the wrestling match.
I'm part of the build for that, right? For that Jericho Tanahashi match. I'm like, you remember those videos where Jericho was punching out fake Tanahashis, and then he's also like in the room with all those like fake Chris Jerichos. I'm a fake Tanahashi, and I'm a fake Chris Jericho.
No way!
Nice.
There's literally, you watch those again. I'm like right there, and then Jericho just punches me in the face, and then essentially we're like, and then later on, like I'm also one of the fake Chris Jerichos that's like behind him during that when like all those like with the face paint and all that and the fedora hat. I'm like on top of his like right shoulder essentially.
No way! I gotta go back and look at that. Oh my god!
I've got a proposition for AEW and New Japan if they're watching to have. Maybe the rubber match, the revenge match with Tanahashi, and then he could show up with X Japan on Dynamite. Yoshiki could be on that piano, and then Sugizo with that solo. But and then Tanahashi comes out air guitaring with Sugizo, and then Jericho comes in with Fozzy, and then maybe like actual battle of the bands, like first of the song, and then they actually fight each other.
The trippiest thing for me is like those parts of those videos that we shot were used in Jericho's like Titantron at the Dome when he had the match with Tanahashi, and I'm all like, I'd never have been to Japan, but that's my face in the Tokyo Dome, and I'm just like
Tokyo Dome.
I was like
the 30,000 people.
Yeah, I was so like, oh my god, that's me behind Chris Jericho while Chris Jericho's making his entrance at the Dome. That at that point I was all like, well, nothing's gonna top this, and then top it.
I just can't believe it, man. Wow, this is new to me, so I'm gonna definitely check that out.
I think I could share this though. I don't think we have too many secret identities. So our co-host Chris Kennedy, he was in a band with, I guess, a fellow announcer of yours, Mr. Takuro Shibata. And yeah,
he's the Japanese ring announcer for New Japan Strong.
Yes,
the intros, and I'll do the outros, essentially.
Yeah, so I actually put Chris in a band with Takuro a few years back. So they were in a band together that played metalcore and Japanese metal songs and stuff like that. And I've known Takuro for a minute because of his bands in the SoCal scene. I think he's in a band right now called Sorry, I'm so sorry. Your band's name escapes me at the moment.
Isn't it Quietude?
Quietude, yes.
Yeah.
Quietude.
No, I didn't know you knew Takaro, and that's a trip to just find out that Takaro is essentially my Japanese counterpart for when we do New Japan Strong. So it's been cool getting to know him over the last like half a year and stuff. So that's
yeah, his
cool.
band rocks. Like I think I went to a show with his guitarist too. So
now, I want to ask just 2 more questions. I don't want to try to keep take away your time, and I apologize. So, one question is: before this whole pandemic,
yes.
But you said you were on the road. So when you were on the road, any funny stories on the road?
Oh man, I think about like, you know what's funny is I feel like I had it in my head and now it's just gone. It's also, well, like just in general, it's just just like clowning about, like hanging out with like Halston and stuff like that, like on those stories, or like just those times where like, I think the funniest thing for me is just like when I was riding up to New Japan to do the thing with Jericho. I had no idea the thing with Jericho was a thing. Like it was, like I remember me and another wrestler who I won't name for this, but like we were in the car and just we were like because he's also one of them too, and we were like on the way to this thing because we rode up together, and we had this long conversation about Chris Jericho. And it was like. And I just remember just us, like, I thought we were talking about whatever in wrestling, and Jericho was like the prime thing about it. Because I don't know what we're shooting. So we show up to this place to start shooting, and then like we're like the first ones there, so we don't even know if we're in the right spot. And then like the director and all that shows up, and then it's just like, oh yeah, so and then like and then it's like, okay, cool, Chris will be here in a minute. And it's like, okay, do you guys know what you're doing? Like, oh no, oh well, Chris Jericho will be here, and then we just like, what? Excuse me? And then, wait. What? Hold on. What? And then like I just remember being like standing next to that dude, like next to the guy I was riding with, and being like, yo, you remember how we were just talking about Chris Jericho? And, there's Chris Jericho. The hell is life right now?
It's law of attraction. The more you talk about certain magnetism, sheer magnetism, and you got all that conversation about Jericho manifested Jericho in front of you.
That's like the weirdest thing, is to be talking about Chris Jericho and then find out you're working with Chris Jericho like in the next hour, like because you didn't know, and just like, wait, what? Oh, okay. And then now all of a sudden I'm dressed up like Tanahashi for Chris Jericho. So that's probably one I think of, like as far as like the weird like road story that I think is pretty funny.
That's awesome. But did you keep the suit, the Tanahashi costume? Did you keep it?
I have the wig. I have the wig they gave me. I still have the fedora hat they gave me when I was Jericho and stuff. So yeah, everything that like I have I've got one of those Tanahashi towels, not like the Aishimasu one, but it's like a beach towel and it's just got Tanahashi's face on it. I'm all like, yes. Oh yeah. That's a pretty cool thing I got from that. Like, being like, so I did keep all that stuff.
I personally prefer the high energy theme to Go Ace. I mean, Go Ace is very like upbeat and babyface, but high energy is so fierce. No.
Yeah.
It sounds like Saint
Seiya. He had it for
Seiya.
so long. It was, he had it for like a decade plus, and then when it finally changed to Go Ace took a little bit of time to grow with me. But then when people like to actually get into it, to go Ace, I think that's what really kind of made it. I think the funniest thing was when, once again, the G1 special, the first time when Tanahashi was Intercontinental Champion and he had the match with Billy Gunn, and so the crowd was going, "Go Ace, go ass, go Ace, go ass, go Ace, go ass." That's one of those moments I remember too, being in the crowd for that.
I'm looking for. I'm hoping that they could, the Ace does come here to to the States, and I hope now with these Forbidden Doors opening, man, I hope they do. I hope they do. I have a feeling. My personal opinion. I know we're gonna see. We've seen Jay White already before in Strong, but I'm pretty sure we'll see him back again, and I'm hoping to see Tanahashi or maybe Naito and everyone else. You never know. Never say never, right?
I would be so like if I'm all of a sudden adding Tanahashi to my credentials of guys I've announced on Strong, that would be the coolest thing, that like, because I would also hope for something like that to happen. But even still, like it's already led to like me being able to announce like Kenta and like Jay White and like ELP and like Leo Rush and stuff like that, like all these cool dudes. Yeah, for sure. Like there's like Strong is, I think we put on a pretty fantastic show every Friday night with the roster that we have, because even without the big the guys who are in the IWGP Heavyweight title picture, I think we've established a really great group of talent that people like when they check out realize there's something to this strong show, honestly. So
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree.
and I think I'm very proud of the work that we've done with New Japan Strong and exposing a lot of these talent that maybe people weren't familiar with that people are finally paying attention to.
Yes, definitely. Like Chris Dickerson. I mean, you got Jared Craters now there now.
Yep.
I mean, Danny Limelight, who's been now very known now, recent.
Yep.
And so there's so many. I mean, there's so many that like that, so much talent, so much roster that I'm like I said, I'm really, really happy for you that you're able to, have that, have the opportunity to announce and for, New Japan. So far you already mentioned one of your goals for 2021 is to announce for Tanahashi. So what other goals do you have set for 2021?
It's if possible, get over to Japan. During this, so it would be to do something for New Japan in the actual country of Japan, and then use my downtime to try and sneak into Super Nintendo World while I'm over there.
Yeah. I heard they're gonna make one here in the States. That's what I heard.
Yeah. It's supposed to be built over. They were working on it in the Universal in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So it was being built there, but who the hell knows when we'll be able to go there? That's the thing. Like it's under construction there, and I think it was supposed to open next year, but who knows?
If you can't make it to Nintendo World, you could always just pop into Akihabara, like just all over that place. Because they have everything. They have every game that's ever been made in the history of mankind.
Well, another thing, Dragon Ball Z card games and stuff like that. There.
Off the subject, Adnan, here's a avid gamer, man. You man.
Damn right I am. I was playing No More Heroes before we got on here. I'm like stuck on the Yakuza series. Me and my buddy have been playing like Super Mario 3D World online, like occasional Rocket League matches. I play a lot of video games too.
Awesome.
But definitely get to Japan in some form or fashion. I'd say as far as like other goals, like it would be hopefully see if I can get myself into a commentary role again somewhere like that I feel is safe. That's the thing also too, is that every show that I've done in the pandemic, I've done with my own safety in mind, that I felt like I was taking the risk for the right reasons, that there were protocols in place, stuff like that. I haven't done any shows yet where I've felt like I put myself in danger. So like as long as I feel comfortable with what's going on, that's when I've taken the shows that I have. So every show I've been on has been very safe. Testing is a thing, social distancing a thing, masks, all that stuff. Yeah. So, but definitely like if I can get back to doing commentary in some form or fashion, that would be a cool thing too. But definitely number one is continue my work with New Japan for sure. Make sure that relationship is strong. And see if I can get to Japan. We finally recently you'll see on some wrestlers, I don't know if Anthony Idol said it, but we just started shooting championship wrestling from Hollywood again. So I was happy to be back in the fold with that. I'm hoping that Primetime Live comes back at some point. Who knows what else that could lead to. So I'm open to any opportunities that come open. I'm willing to hear out and see what else could happen to me. But as far as specific goals, going to Japan is number one for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not gonna ask you right, go to the AEW, none of that crap. It's what's your goal, what you want to go ahead and do. And you say yourself, you are a free agent. Correct if I'm wrong, correct?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I am currently technically considered a free agent. I am not signed to any specific one company, so that's why I'm willing to listen to anybody. Like if AEW or WWE just happened to send knock on my door one day, I would hear it out for sure. Why wouldn't I? There's no reason I wouldn't. We live in a really great time, interesting time where you're seeing all these guys getting offers and stuff that you didn't expect to. So if something like that happened, I'm definitely willing to hear it out. So right now I am a free agent, but the goal itself, number one goal is still though to get to Japan. So that was always goal from day one for me. Actually, as soon as I stepped into Santino Brothers, and it was when we asked about our goals and stuff, that was goal number one for me, is get to New Japan and then get to Japan proper, essentially. So I can't believe that I've made New Japan a thing that's happened, and I'm just that's why I'm saying I'm trying my best to keep my goals with New Japan as strong, and my relationship with New Japan as strong as it's been so far.
That's right.
I'm going to ask you about somebody who has a little bit of a history with just about every Japanese promotion and like almost every American promotion. I mean, we're seeing a lot of older champions as of recently, but he's probably like my favorite older champion at the moment. You know,
I think I know you're gonna say.
Yeah,
go for it. Go for it.
So, Keiji Muto.
Yep, I knew it. Yep.
Keiji Muto,
the current GHC heavyweight champion. Yep.
Like, what do you think about him as champion? What do you think about that match in particular? And he actually said he's willing to defend that title in Impact Wrestling in the United States. So I'm wondering if that also means, like, we could even see Keiji Muto against, you know, people on AEW. Just the fact that, because Impact has that AEW, you know, and just kind of once again, through that forbidden door, so many things could happen, you know, just through this and through that, you know, so.
You know, Keiji Muto being the you know, GHC heavyweight champion in 2021 is a trip, and it's dope. You know, I think if correct me if I'm wrong, isn't he now the third guy to hold the IWGP, GHC, and the Triple Crown championship?
Yes,
third man, right? Yeah, so that's history over there, and it's wonderful because Keiji Muto is a legend in this business. It would be cool to see him defend it in the U.S. It's going to be cool to see what he does with it in Noah in general. But in general, like, you know, I think Keiji Muto is another one of those guys that's proof that age is just a number in pro wrestling, in all honesty, depending on who you are. Like, if you, like, one of my favorite pro wrestlers in the world, like, no hearsay on that, it's just that is Minoru Suzuki. Minoru Suzuki is still putting out some of the greatest matches of all time.
Yes.
Talking about the New Japan Cup last year. Him and Yuji Nagata were both 52 last year and had one of my favorite matches of 2020.
Hard.
And, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Fantastic. Or the match he had with Shingo in Jingu Stadium. That match was amazing. Yeah.
Like,
Minoru Suzuki is the man, and he will always be the man in my book. And like, even another one of my favorite matches was like when we had the first Double or Nothing, we had Cody versus Dustin, and Dustin was 50 in that match. And you wouldn't be like, that match was amazing. It told such an incredible story. But Keiji Muto, like, yeah, being on top of GHC, on top of Pro Wrestling Noah right now, you know, holding the Global Honored Crown, that's dope. That's dope. That's because he is, you know, the great Keiji Muto for a reason. He's still got something to give, and he's going to keep giving it until he can't give it anymore. And I think, you know, as with him being the GHC champion, I think it's just a cool step in 2021 of just things that can happen, you know. So we'll see what happens with Muta. If he shows up in the States with it, that'd be cool too. Like, my
mouth is watering for a Keiji Muto versus Kenny Omega. My mouth is just like.
Hey, you never say never anymore, right? Now,
yeah. Like, you know, never open weight.
Yay!
we're all on these puns. First strong, now never open weight.
Yeah, right. So I don't know.
Only say never when it's never open weight.
Yes. So I have no idea what's going to happen with that necessarily, but it is really cool that, like, to see, you know, Keiji Muto holding a world championship in 2021 and achieving that triple crown status of holding all the big Japanese championships, I think is super dope. And I'm all for it.
Yeah. I think the main phrase we'll take, Ivan, is anything is possible right now.
I'm sorry, but Adnan won me over right now, bro. More than you. I'm sorry. He won me over, man. Can I be your BFF?
You know, there's a big line, actually.
I know.
You'd have to get there with, like, filthy Tom Lawler, who's totally not going to hit me with that club, or, like, Bateman, who's totally my best friend. If you've ever looked at my stars, Bateman is absolutely my best friend. Don't let him tell you anything otherwise.
I mean, I'd love to have it be you and Kevin Kelly, like, every week of the G1 climax. I know that's going to be awesome. Like, that'll be like a long, hot, sexy summer. You know, that'll be the summer jam. That's the summer jam. Like, it's not a song. It's you and Kevin Kelly announcing the G1.
Getting the opportunity to, like, call the G1 would be an absolute thing to control if it ever happens. Like, that would be so cool to be there, like, night after night in just different spots, like Fukuoka and Tokyo and, like, you know, and
Sendai, you know,
and all these awesome cities. And just call some of them and call the best wrestling on the planet. You know what I mean? So that would be super dope if it ever happens. So that's like ultimate dream. That's not something I think could happen. I think will happen in 2021. But if it does happen in 2021, I'm gonna be off the wall, and then you'll see pictures of me at Super Nintendo World being like, "I'm calling the G1."
You know, law of attraction. Law of attraction. I'm just gonna keep putting energy towards that. You know, Adnan in the G1 climax. I'll say you're here first.
Oh, I'm in the G1 climax? Oh, man, I'm going to be in the B block? All right,
it's gonna be you and Toru Yano, and he's taping you to the ceiling.
That'd be so good. I'd love to be in a match with Toru Yano.
He tapes you, like the whole match is like you guys are both counted out.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, if we're both counted out, that means I get 1 point because it's that's a draw.
Time limit draw.
That's right, baby.
That's right. Oh man, I appreciate you very much, Adnan, for joining us. But before we let you go, if you want to go ahead and let our viewers and subscribers, where can they find you? Where can they locate you?
Social media, you can find me on both Twitter and on Instagram at @TheDashingAdnan, TheDashingAdnan, Twitter and Instagram. You can watch New Japan Strong every Friday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern, on NJPWWorld.com every Friday night. You can watch Championship Wrestling from Hollywood every Saturday night on KDOC at 1 a.m. or for free on the Fight TV app. So you can watch that all over the place, as well as our affiliates like Championship Wrestling from Memphis, Championship Wrestling from Arizona, Championship Wrestling from Championship Wrestling Gulf Coast. We have all these cool affiliates, as well as you can still purchase the old primetime live shows on Fight TV if you so choose. You can so many other places you can find me, like Ground Zero Pro or like Wrestling Pro Wrestling or Santino Brothers. Any of those are places you can find me, but specifically for me, social media at @DeDashing.
That is right, and we are looking forward for this Friday. I mean, we are looking forward for Strong Evolve, the road to there. So I'm looking forward.
Yeah, Road to Strong Style Evolve. We have the qualifying matches for the New Japan Cup USA starting this Friday night with Leo Rush taking on Rocky Romero, as well as Filthy Tom Lawler taking on the DKC. And let's not forget, the LA Dojo are going to be in tag team action against one another as Alec Coughlin finally comes back from injury to team with the Alpha Wolf, Carl Fredericks, to take on Clark Connors, the captain of the LA Dojo, and Kevin Knight. That is going to be one not to miss. It's going to be a super strong episode of Strong as we're on the road to Strong Style Evolve.
Definitely. Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you, Adnan, for once again joining us. I hope we can have you back again on the show, man. We could go hours.
Yeah, right?
Hours,
we really
man.
could.
We really could, honestly.
This is a lot of fun. No, for sure. I had a really good time here.
I'm glad you had a wonderful time, and like I said, you're welcome anytime. If you just hit us up, we can literally just give the viewers a whole pretty much history of New Japan and oh my God, so much we can talk about.
For sure.
But once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week.
Yeah.